Hello and welcome back to the Mega Mirror Live. We've got a great show for you tonight. On this edition of the Mega Mirror Live, we have with us our first returning guest. We first welcomed him onto the original Mega Mirror 10 months ago, and tonight he's back to share more about what he's been up to since then. A good friend and fellow shill, DeadKennedyInSpace, is with us tonight. I'm very excited to welcome him back. And for those of you who are new to the community, I'm sure you will enjoy the show as we learn more about this fantastic creator. So get your drinks and have a seat as we get ready to launch into orbit to meet him when we come back. And we're back. For those of you just joining us, we have with us a fantastic creator who is making the first return visit to the show, my good friend and fellow shill, DeadKennedyInSpace. So let's get this thing going. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Space Cowboys. Thanks very much for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm really been looking forward to this for quite a while. So anxious to see what you've been up to since the last time we spoke. But before we do that, let's go around the room and introduce our queen of the mods, or actually the head mod, Aimee Hogan. How are you, Aimee?
I am doing great. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love these shows. These are great to listen to. So I'm really excited to be here. And anyone, if you have any questions in the chat, feel free to tag the EiE Network. I will collect those up and we'll read them out.
Awesome. That's great. And of course, the man in the machine, the man who keeps us all running, Boole. How are you, brother?
I am good. I'm excited about this show. I like these. I'm with Aimee on this. I like the concept of the Mega Mirror. I like exposing new creators to everyone and getting their names out there. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And even though Kevin's not a new creator, he is definitely an exceptional one. And I'm really glad that you're back with us, Kevin. So why don't we get things started? And basically just the same question I always start with. What prompted you to start your own channel?
Oh, well, it all started with the NASA Facebook page. I was following them for updates on Artemis and SLS at the time, and I started browsing the comments of their posts, and that was a mistake because their comments are filled with crazy people who are convinced that space is fake. And that was kind of my introduction to space deniers and flat earthers, and I thought, well, this seems crazy. There can't be anything to this, and started looking it up, found channels like Red's Rhetoric and Non Sequitur Show, and it was still active. And after a while, eventually, once I'd watched enough of that, I thought, I can do this. I could debunk this stuff, and I like talking about space, so I could do that at the same time.
Excellent. So it's kind of turning a hobby into something you can do on a regular basis.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I think it's pretty true for a lot of us in this community. We all kind of had very similar beginnings or reasons for beginning. So what's new on your channel since the last time we spoke?
Well, I'd say it's definitely gone up in terms of quality. I've kind of learned to edit as I've had my channel, and looking back on my early videos, they're kind of cringe as far as editing goes. So it's definitely gotten a lot more streamlined, better audio quality, things like that, and I've expanded out from just talking about space and flat Earth, and also talking about other conspiracies that exist, and just kind of general problems that I find throughout the world that I think are worth discussing. So it's become a pretty general channel, but mostly focused on space and the conspiracies that surround it.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about your channel when I first came across it was the series you did on Flat Earth, the mental illness. I thought that was a really well done series. And yeah, I kind of wish you'd continue that, you know?
It's, you know, if I ever find a particularly good reason to make a part 11, then I definitely will. Because I originally only planned it to be 3 parts, and it's now 10 parts. So it's sort of, it's never officially over. It's just kind of over until I come up with another part.
Yeah. It's kind of the same for all of our videos, eh? We get going on something and then we stop, and then 6 months down the road, something else comes up and we just pick it up and continue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But 2020, and we were speaking about this before the show. 2020 has been a difficult year for all of us thus far. How has it impacted your channel?
To be honest, a lot of the kind of social distancing and quarantine has given me more time to work on the channel. So it's impacted me positively in some ways, but at the same time, with a difficult situation in the world comes conspiracies surrounding that difficult situation. So there's also been a lot of videos to make on those kinds of subjects, like anti-maskers and the 5G conspiracists, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those 5G conspiracies, man, those are crazy.
They're wild.
They are, man. They're absolutely out there. But I'm sure there are a few viewers out there who might not know you or are just getting into this, and they might not be aware that Kevin is also an author, and quite a good one. I've bought one of his books and really enjoying it. What is your favorite thing to write about?
I mean, I would say science fiction is my favorite genre to write. I've dipped my toe into other things, but I find sci-fi to be a wonderful genre because you can talk about so many things in the vein of a sci-fi novel. Like, what was that quote? I think it was Isaac Asimov once said that science fiction allows us to tell stories about the human condition. And that's what it is to me. Is it's just it's a way to take the thoughts of the present day and put them forth into the future and see how well they fare.
Well, you do a good job of it. I purchased what was it? God, the name of the book is on the tip of my tongue. Oh God, I can't remember.
Seeker?
Yes, Hunter Seeker. That's it. That's it. Very, very good. I love the way it started out. You know, this just a guy sitting there trying to write code and found a missing comma. You know,
yes,
that's so true. Just the smallest little thing can bring an entire system down. You know,
I think at the time I was taking computer programming in college, and that was something I learned was computers they can't really think. They can just follow instructions, and if one part of that instruction is wrong, then they end up completely lost and they have no idea what to do.
Absolutely. So how can people find out about the books you've written and grab a copy?
Well, I can pop a link in the chat. All of my videos has links in the description for various things, Patreon, merchandise, all those kinds of things. But I'll put in the link right now to my Amazon author page. So if anyone wants to have a look at that, feel free, and I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, everybody, you should go check that out. He's a very accomplished writer, and I'm sure you'll enjoy him. So you've got a new book in the works right now, don't you?
Well, I did just I actually just released one very recently called Avalon Black. It's a kind of sci-fi mystery novel about a lone pilot aboard a prototype starship that's 99.9% drone automated. So he's the single living person on the ship, and he goes on a cross-galaxy journey and starts to realize he might not necessarily be alone, and dealing with all these kind of themes of isolation and those sorts of things. And it was a lot of fun to write. Yeah,
I'm sure it is. Sure it was. I'm getting some feelings of Kerbal Space coming there. Yeah.
A little bit. There's definitely going to be some elements of that in future works as well.
Awesome. And well, I think that's a good time to check in with Aimee and see if we have any questions for Kevin before we move on to our first video. Aimee?
Yeah, we did have a good comment. A couple good comments. Peter Quinn said, yes, 2020 has been difficult and challenging. And then he said, anti-maskers are rat lickers. That comes from the bubonic plague. Yeah.
I like to call them plague enthusiasts.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then Dick says, Kevin, tell the truth. He doesn't write the books. It's a little goldfish living in his jar.
Blow this thing wide open for me, man. I got a good deal going here.
Yes.
Awesome. Those are great comments. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate that. And please, don't be shy. Anything you want to ask, just pop it into the chat at the EiE Network, and Aimee will make sure they get read out. So with that, let's move on and take a look at the first video we'd like to feature for tonight. It's about the shuttle from your to the Stars and Beyond series. This is episode 5. Return to flight status, one of my personal favorites. So let's roll that, Boole.
Go for main engine start.
We have a go for main engine start. Mission and liftoff of Discovery, celebrating its 25th birthday by racking up science and supplies to the space station. The solid rocket boosters a little away.
Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check. Roger, roll.
975 days after the Challenger disaster, the NASA Space Shuttle program officially returned to flight status with the 7th launch of Discovery, STS-26, on the 29th of September 1988. It was the first mission since STS-4 to have the astronauts wearing pressure suits during launch and landing, one of many precautions taken due to the launch's nervous atmosphere. It was also the first all-veteran mission since Apollo 11, with all crew members having flown at least one prior mission to space. The mission went exceptionally well, with only 2 minor problems. First, the flash evaporator system for cooling the orbiter iced up and shut down, forcing the astronauts to deal with a cabin temperature of around 31 degrees Celsius until the 4th day of the mission. Additionally, one of the communications antennas malfunctioned during deployment and had to be stowed for the mission's duration. One notable incident of the mission involved its use of an experimental voice control unit. Initially, the unit was found to be only 40 to 60% accurate in identifying the crew's speech, and the templates for it had to be retrained, bringing its accuracy to around 96%. The problem? The human voice changes in microgravity, and the machine had been calibrated to hear the astronauts on Earth. The missions directly following the program's return to flight status are most notable, to me, for their deployment of a few very special probes. First, on May 4th, 1989, the Magellan probe was deployed from Shuttle Atlantis. This probe, constructed for the orbital exploration of Venus, ended an 11-year gap in any interplanetary probe being deployed by the United States. Magellan's goals included obtaining near-global radar images of the Venusian surface, obtaining a near-global topographical map, and obtaining gravity field data of the planet. After being deployed from the shuttle, Magellan's inertial upper stage booster fired it into a Type 4 heliocentric orbit, where it would circle the Sun 1.5 times. 15 months later, it reached Venus on August 10, 1990. It then boosted itself into an elliptical orbit that would bring it only 295 kilometers from the planet's surface at its closest. This allowed it to collect radar and imaging data while close to the planet, and then transmit that data back to Earth when it was further away. The second deep space probe to be deployed by a space shuttle was the Galileo spacecraft, deployed from Shuttle Atlantis on October 18, 1989. Galileo was, as its name implies, designed to study Jupiter and its moons. Similarly, using the inertial stage upper booster, Galileo was put on a trajectory to first intercept Venus, and then use its gravity to slingshot itself further toward Jupiter. On its way, it would encounter 241 Ida, a large asteroid in the asteroid belt, and discover that this lopsided space potato has its own moon, which was named Dactyl. Galileo studied our solar system's largest gas giant for 2 years, traveling in elongated ellipses that allowed it to get several good looks at the planet's many moons. I'd like to end with another NASA oopsie, though thankfully, this one was only expensive instead of fatal. On the 24th of April 1990, Shuttle Discovery launched and deployed the Hubble Space Telescope, which we all know and love. However, some of you may remember that when it was initially deployed, Hubble was essentially broken. Within weeks of the launch, the returned images indicated a serious problem with the optical system. Just take a look at this image of what was supposed to be a star. Analysis of the images showed that the problem was a flawed mirror, which had been polished in the wrong shape. And here's how barely wrong it was. The mirror was 2200 nanometers, too flat to produce quality images of the cosmos. This blunder briefly made NASA a laughingstock, since Hubble had cost about $4.7 billion and was effectively useless. Thankfully, NASA had a solution to that problem. However, we'll cover that in the next episode. Some of you guys may remember that this used to be a channel mostly dedicated to debunking the Flat Earth conspiracy. For those folks, I'd like to pose a question for those idiots. Why on earth would NASA want to fake launching a broken $4.7 billion telescope?
That was a great video. I really enjoyed that one. I just want to let everyone in the chat know, the videos we're featuring tonight have been edited down in the interest of saving time. So I highly, highly recommend that you head on over to Kevin's channel and check out the full versions. They are awesome videos. What I really liked about this video was the fact that you touched on not only the successes, but the failures in that mission.
In
How much
the Hubble mission?
into that?
Well, as far as the amount of research, I had sort of initially planned for each episode to cover a single mission, but I quickly realized that there'd be a lot of repeated information because a lot of the missions did do some of the same things. So I ended up kind of dividing it into chunks with trying to start and end with significant events. So starting with the return to flight status after Challenger, and then ending with the deployment of Hubble. And my biggest resource for that was NASA themselves, because every single shuttle mission that was ever launched has a wonderful hour-long post-flight presentation that has some incredible footage and some really interesting information in them.
Yeah. I had to cut some of that footage out to save some time, but it really, there's some really gorgeous shots, especially from the mission to Jupiter. Gorgeous shots. Really beautiful. Yeah. So
absolutely. I love the images of the Galilean moons that they captured.
Yeah, they were gorgeous. So much incredible detail,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it blows my mind that there is a moon so very far away, and yet we're pretty sure that it has liquid water under the surface, and we've never been anywhere near the surface.
Yeah, exactly. It's we can't be alone. The odds of us being alone in this vast universe are so minuscule. But the trick is the distance between us and anything else out there is so great, we'll probably never meet.
Right. Yeah, I've always said that I do believe aliens exist somewhere, and more importantly, some when. Because they may have existed millions of years ago, and they may not exist for millions of years yet. Yeah,
exactly. But it's a great series, really. It was 12 parts in total, correct?
Yeah, 12 in total.
Yeah. So are you going to be expanding on that? I think you've already started with one, huh?
I have plans in the works. I haven't. I'm working on the first episode, but it's taking a little bit more time. It's called Martian Machines, where I'm going to go over everything that's managed to orbit or land on Mars. And I'm kind of doing a different structure of it. I'm going to do it as a kind of first-person narrative, like sort of telling the story from the perspective of the machine that landed on Mars, and kind of turn it into a little bit of a not a fictional story, but maybe a slightly fictionalized version, because I'm kind of I'm implying the thoughts of a machine that doesn't have any thoughts. So, but I'm going to have some fun with it, most definitely.
No. Well, the passion you have for the subject is self-evident. That's for sure. Let's see if anybody in the chat has any comments about the video. Aimee?
Yes, please. I have a couple. I have one question and one comment. Peter Quinn said, yes, they calibrated the lens for Hubble to work in Earth's atmosphere. And then Dorian B asks, where does Dead Kennedy in Space get his ideas for his books?
Ooh, various sources, really. For me, it usually comes down to a single scene that I want to describe, and then I'll sort of build a story around that. Like, for instance, Project Nomad, that's a three-part series. That's the first one is the one that you've read, Steaming Cup. And the initial idea for that was I just wanted to write a friendly first contact scene between humans and aliens, and it slowly kind of evolved into, well, what situation would humans be in for this to be able to happen? What circumstances might lead to this kind of first contact? And it slowly develops itself into its own little world.
Mm-hmm. It's a slow and laborious process, but the rewards are great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, what do you think, Aimee? What's your favorite episode of To the Stars and Back?
I don't know. I really like them all. This one was a really good one, too. I love all of his videos. He does a great job. I love the ones about the shuttle. Those are one of my favorites, too. I love that series.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, bashing the Flurfs is always fun. So.
Oh, yeah. Of course. And we're going to get some of that, too, for sure. How about you, Bull? I know you're a big space buff. What's your favorite episode?
Well, I don't know that it's a favorite because I'm kind of in the I can't decide camp on that, but one that holds a special place in my heart was the Challenger one, because I know that was a hard one to do. I know that was a hard one to do, Kevin, and it was a hard one to watch too. But if you were like, people say, "Oh, I remember where I was when I heard about 9/11." I remember where I was when I heard about Challenger, and it brought all that back, and it's a very well done series, very informative, and
absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
But one little kind of side note about that Challenger episode that a couple people noticed, and I took. Pardon me. I took a lot of care to do it this way, but not too many people seem to notice that I made a point to not actually show the quote-unquote explosion because I didn't feel it was necessary, and I didn't think people needed to be subjected to that again because most people have seen that many times. So yeah. I tried to cut around it to a point where like when the actual explosion happened, I was showing the control room and showing the reactions that people had to that. I wanted to do something different with it instead of just showing the really depressing sight that we've all seen before.
Mm-hmm. And showing the emotions of the people in the control room, I think, is more poignant.
Absolutely,
carries a strong message, and it's a mission and a group of people that need to be remembered.
In fact, speaking of the people in the control room, the man who says Challenger go at throttle up and Challenger responds, and then he looks to the monitor in complete shock. You may have noticed in the last episode that guy was on one of the shuttle missions. He was the guy holding up the floating bag of goldfish.
Oh, really?
That's the same guy who was in the control room for Challenger.
I did not even know that. That's very, very interesting. And on that note, I guess the one question I wanted to ask was, of all the 12 episodes of that series, which one are you most proud of? Which one was the one where you finished it and said, wow, that was my best one?
I would say it might be the episode on Columbia, STS-107, the last mission of Columbia, because that was something that, because I was born 3 years after the Challenger disaster, so I don't have a clear memory of that happening, but I remember every detail of Columbia happening, so that was really close to my heart, and I felt that I captured that fairly well, and I managed to find some really good footage Leroy Kane, the flight director, being interviewed and his thoughts on everything. And I was proud of how I managed to put that one together.
Well, it came together well, and I would have to agree. That was very skillfully done. And that leads us really well into the next video. Not only do you do videos on space and on bashing flirts, but you also have some pretty darn good educational content. And this next video, I think, is one of your best. I like it the best myself. So it's called What is the Great Attractor? So let's roll that, Boole, and have a look.
Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
Gravity. Gravity is a pretty remarkable thing, isn't it? Gravity created our planet, it created its atmosphere, created our moon, every other planet, our life-giving star, our entire galactic plane.
Gravity is important.
Gravity is responsible for the organized structure of our entire universe.
Why is there so much gravity?
I'm just gonna say gravity a few more times until the flurfs get triggered and stop watching. Gravity. Gravity! 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 Now, the reason I brought up gravity is to introduce today's video topic, an anomaly that we only know exists because of gravity. The Great Attractor. In 1973, astronomers and astrophysicists began to notice something strange in the skies. The expanding universe was not expanding precisely the way we expected. There was an unexplained deviation, and in 1986, the location of the deviation's cause was pinpointed. Located somewhere between 150 and 250 million light-years away from the Milky Way, the Great Attractor had been found. At the center of the Laniakea supercluster, which is our local cluster of galaxies, there is something extremely massive that is pulling entire galaxies around it. However, there's some interesting caveats with this thing, one of which being that we can't actually see it. The Great Attractor is located in an area called the Zone of Avoidance, where objects are difficult to observe due to the obscuring effects of our own galactic plane. What this means is, you are located here. The Great Attractor is located beyond here. Between the two is the majority of the Milky Way galaxy, which is not easy to see through. Some optical wavelengths are completely destroyed by the dust and gas within the Milky Way, though other wavelengths such as radio and infrared can reduce the galactic plane to near transparency. Even so, around 10% of the extragalactic sky remains difficult to survey, as extragalactic objects can be easily confused with objects within the Milky Way. So, if we can't see it, how do we know the Great Attractor exists? The answer is redshift. Redshift is a phenomenon in physics where electromagnetic radiation from an object undergoes an increase in wavelength. What this basically boils down to is, we can tell what direction something is moving relative to us based on the wavelength. The longer wavelengths are moving away, and the shorter wavelengths are moving closer. All of these redshifted galaxies indicate, in accordance with the Hubble flow, that they are moving away from us much faster than they should be. What this means is that they are being pulled by a localized concentration of mass thousands of times more massive than the Milky Way itself. This is the Great Attractor. So, if we can see all of this, if we know that something is pulling whole galaxies toward it, if we know that something needs to be so massive we can barely comprehend it, what is it? Well, the short answer is, we don't know. The Great Attractor is a complete mystery to all astronomers and astrophysicists. We simply do not know what is causing all of this gravitational force. Is it a supermassive black hole? Is it some kind of titanic planet bigger even than a galaxy? Is it a gargantuan space monster slowly pulling its dinner toward its mouth? We just don't know. These are the mysteries of our universe that keep me up at night. You know, there will be, in the very distant future, a point in time in which the galaxies we can see today will be beyond our visible horizon. Almost everything we know about astronomy, we know because of observations of other galaxies, and one day, all of those galaxies will be gone to our eyes. An entire generation of explorers and scientists will have to try and figure out what's going on around them using only the stars within the Milky Way. It's sort of like trying to piece together the plot of a 300-page novel, with 250 pages of it missing. However, at the same time, there will likely be a generation of explorers who aren't limited by the zone of avoidance, and can directly observe the Great Attractor, confirming just what the heck it is. And both of these hypothetical situations make me wonder, is there something missing from the night skies that could have told us something here in the present? Has some previous form of life already seen the Great Attractor? The universe is huge and ever-changing. There's so much more to it than we'll know in our lifetimes. The questions will never end, and the mysteries will never cease to exist. It excites me to no end, to know that there will always be more to learn. Let's get going, my friends. The future is in the sky, right over our heads.
I love that closing line. That is so, so true. It really
Thank
is.
you.
I really like that video, mostly because there's good, clear explanation that's easy to follow, even for people who don't really deal well with advanced physics topics like this.
Right. That's always kind of been my goal, is to take the most complicated concepts that I'm able to comprehend and put them on a level that everyone can comprehend them.
Yeah. It's not always that easy, is it?
No, not at all. Especially when it comes to something like the Great Attractor and you're talking about redshifting galaxies and the Hubble flow and those sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah. But when it's explained like you did in this video, redshift and blue shift, that's really not that hard to understand. It makes quite good sense, you know. And that brings to mind a really strange comment I saw when I was watching this video during my research. So some commenter on your channel said that the only thing that made sense to him was the octopus. Excuse me?
Oh, right. I think that was Barry Sheen. He said something like that was the only real thing in the video, and I said that's the only thing that was literally a cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many commenters like that do you get on your videos?
Surprisingly, not too many. Barry Sheen's a pretty regular one. He's almost always there. But depending on the subject, if I go after a specific flat earther, sometimes some of their fans will come over and comment. But I don't have too many in terms of regular trolls.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I get a few now and then on my channel, but not that many. But when I do get them, they're doozies, real winners.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. So how about the chat, Aimee? Do we have any interesting questions or comments?
Yeah, we have a comment from Peter Quinn. He says it's he's talking about the Great Attractor, and he says it's a mass of galaxies that have merged. We have to wait 500 million years to get a direct sight of it, half a rotation of the Milky Way.
Right. So some of the mystery has kind of fallen away at this point, where we're pretty sure that it's a massive cluster of galaxies, but we're not 100% certain.
Probably won't be 100% certain for quite some time, but it's amazing how fast we are progressing in the field.
Definitely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and it's all thanks to math and physics. That's kind of like your bag, eh, Boole? What do you think? You there, Boole?
Yeah. What was the question? I'm sorry, I had to step out.
Oh, just, we were talking about the rate at which we are progressing in the field of astrophysics, and I know you're a big physics fan, so I thought you might have some input.
I think we could do better if we weren't doing all the squabbling on the planet.
That's fair.
But I think some incredible strides are being made, especially since it's gone to private industry. You look at stuff like what Elon Musk has done with the boosters landing back down and being reusable. That's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the big expense of the missions of like Apollo. Most of the stuff that went up was disposed of. Like the tiny thing that came back compared to the giant rocket that went up. And now we're getting more of that rocket back and are able to reuse it or at least recycle it. So I mean that alone is huge.
I agree.
Really, it seems like 10 years ago the idea of a rocket landing itself was science fiction.
Yeah,
And yet
I was
now it's happening.
Yeah, and it's doing it so well too.
It took a little while to get there, but now that they've got it, they seem to really have it.
Well, what do you think of the upcoming mission to return to the moon?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think it's what's the best way to say this? NASA takes forever to do anything, which is understandable because of what they do. It's very, very complicated. But with the addition of private companies like SpaceX, I feel like we're really going to boost that, and we will go back to the moon. I think we can make it back by 2024 with the aid of companies like SpaceX.
I think it's going to spell a very quick end to the flat Earth.
They'll find some kind of excuse.
Oh yeah, there's always an idiot out there ready to squawk his mouth off, but there's really no debate. There hasn't been for a long time.
I honestly actually can't wait for commercial orbital spaceflight to become viable, because I want to see a ton of videos of, you know, debunking people who just went on a flight and filmed out their window.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That's video footage I'd love to get.
Absolutely.
How about you, Aimee? What do you think about our impending return to the moon?
I think it's great. I do think we'll get there, and I think it's wonderful. It'll be something that me and Matthew both will be able to see in our lifetimes, we hope, and so we're pretty excited about that. I've always been fascinated with space and its phenomena, so I can't wait. I hope they do go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess being a parent, you have the unique opportunity of seeing your son experience the same thrill that I experienced when I was 8 years old watching Apollo 11 go up.
Absolutely. I'm so looking forward to that.
That was actually kind of one of my thoughts as well. As I'm too young to remember Apollo, but I will get to see us return to the moon in our lifetime, and that's really exciting.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think for me that's the biggest thrill. I was 8 years old and I witnessed Apollo 11 go up and come back. I've seen all the Apollo missions. I've seen all the shuttle missions. Seen all the SpaceX missions, and now I get to see him go back to the moon. That's quite something in one lifetime.
Absolutely.
To be a part of. You know, excellent. Well, I've got a couple other questions for you. First, what would be one thing if you could spread one message to your viewers and the internet in general? What would that message be? What would you like to say?
The future is in space, and the sooner we realize that, the better. There's all kinds of amazing things on Earth, and there's things we still don't even fully understand on Earth. Like we have a better map of the moon than we do of our own oceans, but our time here is finite, and if we're ever going to keep existing as a species on a long-term scale, we need to go into space. And I think to get excited about that kind of thing is really important.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I had another question for you that. Yes. Are there any specific creators that inspire you?
That inspire me? Red's Rhetoric is definitely one of them. Simon Dan as well, big fan of him. Pardon me. But also some of the bigger astronomy channels out there, people who take incredible photos of nebulae and things like that. So you've got Astronomy Live, you've got IB Hunter, you've got Geist View. Those guys take some really amazing images of the cosmos.
I agree. Red's rhetoric is awesome. He really is. But I also like the stuff that Blue Marble Science is doing right now.
Oh yeah, with Cavendish and everything. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to see the results of the first run of that. That's going to be great. Okay, well, I guess it's time to move on to our final video. The flurf bashing everyone I'm sure has been waiting for. But before we do that, of all the stupid that we bash regularly on the Silly Shill Show, what is the one claim or conspiracy that really gets you the most?
Ooh, I mean, the whole space is fake thing really does baffle me simply because of the pressure gradient, right? Like the air gets thinner as we get higher. So at what point does that stop and why? And I've just never heard a good answer to that. And I can't imagine living in this strangely limited world where we're just in this little snow globe and there's nothing outside of us and nothing to learn and nothing to aspire to. It's so limiting and depressing to me. I can't imagine how anyone would want to live in that world.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I really have to agree. And no one is more guilty of that kind of ignorance and stupidity than this next video. Everybody's favorite denier of everything, Mr. Hans Wormhat. So, Boole, can you cue that up and roll it?
The only world known so far to harbor life. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
All right, Hans, I've had enough. You've shown your hand too many times for me to let you get away with anymore. I am now calling you out as a Poe, a fraud, a charlatan, a liar, whatever word you want to use. Everybody, Hans Wormhat isn't real. So just in case you're unfamiliar with him, allow me to run through the basics. I've done a video on him before. In that one, Hans made the claim that gorillas aren't real animals and are simply men in suits. This is pretty much his many channels in a nutshell. He picks a subject, finds a handful of low-quality images and video references, and then says they're fake because, look at them, they look fake. And this one, the penguin one, was the last straw. His formula revealed itself for the 100th time, and there's too many things that don't add up. I don't believe he's genuine anymore. Let's go through it and find out why.
Hans Wormhat.
What? Once burned fat?
Hans Wormhat.
You know, I could hear you a lot better if you'd take the dick out of your mouth.
Send this video to people who believe in penguins.
Okay, so everyone ever. Got it. You guys watching?
And I'm talking about the tuxedo wearing, living at the alleged South Pole, the March of the Penguins type penguin.
That's called the Emperor Penguin, and you know its name because you use it later in the video, but you know your audience will know what you're talking about when you dumb it down like that. Poe.
There is a type of aquatic bird, and it's black and white splotched. It doesn't look like it's wearing a tuxedo, but...
He's also aware that his audience is probably stupid enough to not know that there are multiple species of penguins, and in fact, the vast majority of them do have the tuxedo color patterns.
A memory that sticks with me from childhood is going to see the penguins at the zoo, and I was just very underwhelmed because in your mind as a child you think, oh, emperor penguins, these big bright orange, what do you know?
Yeah, orange is a common color. Common enough that you have to emphasize it that specific way to activate the Pavlovian programming in your drooling, mouth-breathing fans. Duh, orange means Illuminati. Illuminati controls the sunset.
These big penguins with bright orange on them.
I love that.
And you get to the penguin exhibit and no, it's these little black and white splotched aquatic birds. And I remember thinking, what, this isn't a penguin? That's what I remember thinking.
So basically, he went to one shitty attraction as a child, and this defines all places penguins can be found anywhere ever. He intentionally chose SeaWorld. It's popular and will be recognized by his idiot masses, allowing them to associate all penguin exhibits with those at SeaWorld.
This is like pretty new penguin exhibits at SeaWorld. I think most of these are Orlando SeaWorld. I don't know if they're all the same ride or anything, but...
Skip. SeaWorld Orlando isn't the only place you can see penguins. I don't need to hear you further indoctrinating your cult.
There is this part, and what it is, these are just animatronics in the background, and they sell it to you as living penguins. And it's just not real. They're animatronics.
You see that button with the two lines in the middle of the screen? You know, the pause button? There's a reason Hans isn't pushing it. He intentionally took a screen cap from a low-quality video, probably utilizing a frame that had a lot of motion blur, so you can't see much of the penguins. If you were to play it, you'd realize animatronics don't slip and slide on the ice and dive into the water and begin swimming as elegantly as any fish does. Hans doesn't want you to see that. Pay attention to the absolute garbage evidence he provides. That's what's important for him.
Those emperor penguins, they didn't used to have these at zoos at all, because just the technology wasn't there, I guess. It was too hokey. They only would show you photos of them, and you would watch them on TV, but never in the zoo would they ever have stuff like this. Nowadays...
Because emperor penguins live in one of the most notoriously hostile and difficult to explore regions of the Earth, Antarctica. You know, the single last continent to ever be discovered. And nevertheless, king penguins, very visually similar to emperors, were first bred in captivity in 1919 at the Edinburgh Zoo. But if Hans doesn't remember them when he was a kid, they don't exist. Most people probably didn't see them until relatively recently, and Hans is banking on that. He wants you to believe his story.
The ones in the water will never be the emperor penguin. Why doesn't that one go swimming?
Oh, really? Cue the yodeling. This is what Hans likes to do. He likes to make assertions about things that are either rarely seen or not seen by the average person. He is relying, once again, on his audience being sheltered, ignorant morons.
It's probably an old hoax. Look at these old penguins. How can you not tell that that's just a taxidermy joke? Doesn't even look good.
See, and here's where he's slipped up. Those aren't old photos of penguins. They're HD and brand new, just colored black and white. He was hoping his audience wouldn't read the rest of that image caption in which it describes a century-old journal, not photos. And the other area he slipped up is in the penguins he chose. The Adelie penguin, that's how you pronounce that French word, Hans, is one of those odd-looking animals due to its color pattern. Am I the only person who, as a child, assumed that the white eye-shaped markings on an orca's head were in fact its eyes? It's the same deal with Adelie penguins. Those white spots aren't eyes. They're white circles of feathers around the eyes. Hans intentionally chose low-quality photos showing the eyes at a distance, and indeed, Adelies do look a little dopey from that distance. Very crafty, Hans, but the next bit is where he truly shows his hand.
And people will always come, why? Why would somebody do this? Why would somebody do this? I've known people in my life to lie about what they ate for lunch, and it doesn't serve any purpose. They're of their father, the devil, the father of all lies, and they love hoaxing people. They think that this is so funny that they can get people to believe in stuffed animals. It makes them feel powerful that they can make people live in a fantasy land. And they get off on gatekeeping knowledge and feeling superior to people and smug because they know that this stuff is all hoaxery. And so that's why they love pushing it. The more that they can push it and the more that they can get people to believe in this BS, it just makes them feel smug and superior.
That is the most paper-thin excuse for an international conspiracy that would require thousands of people all over the planet to be coordinated and trusting one another, and without a single whistleblower in a century that I have ever heard. All of that work to feel smug? You know what most rich people do to feel smug? They buy a Ferrari. It's a lot easier, and they're actually pretty nice cars, too. Just doesn't fly for me. So much effort and lying and backdoor dealing and misinformation just to feel smug. What a crock of shit.
It's usually just Photoshop these days. There's a lot of... It's like a meme. The Emperor Penguins. This person probably just Photoshopped this. There's probably a Photoshop tool where you can just click the mouse and it'll make a penguin for you. Make a penguin, make a penguin, make a penguin. That's what most penguin stuff looks to me. It's like it's a stamp from Photoshop where you click it and it auto-generates some penguin.
This is another slip-up. He is again relying on his audience to be stupid. They don't know how things like photo editing works, so they'll believe this make a penguin bullshit.
Photos like this are just all Photoshop. To me, this is just like, look at that. This is so out of place. Do you see how out of place that one looks? It looks totally different than all the other ones, and it's just hanging out there. Very odd.
It looks like a juvenile penguin on its way back to its mother. You know kids tend to wander off, right? Also, good work on the Photoshop experts for including the many, many puddles of penguin piss. We really needed to see that.
Wow. So what are the circumstances surrounding this image? 1 in a million shot. So somebody's out there diving with the penguins and they happen to get this amazing shot, or is it just Photoshop BS?
Probably someone who took a photo of something like this happening. Once again, Hans is relying on his audience being stupid. None of them have ever studied photography, they don't know how to frame up a shot, or the amount of patience and timing and effort required to get that one perfect shot.
I mean, this is enough. What? Is this supposed to be real? Penguin stuff is fake. It's just a big meme, this penguin thing. I think it's similar to the gorillas, and I think a lot of people know about this penguin thing. It's just a big Masonic joke that's gotten out of control, and they just have to keep running with it.
And he leaves us with another flag of the Poe. A GIF. A low-res GIF that's been shared and reshared until I can barely tell which pixel the penguins are. That's what he's got for evidence of the existence of penguins. Hans wants his idiot man-child audience to believe that this is all the evidence there is. He doesn't want them to leave their basements and explore the world, because then they'd find out the truth. All it takes is just the more minor amount of effort that Hans gives to make his conspiracies completely fall to pieces. I almost can't wait for the headline, "Conspiracy Theorist Killed by Gorilla While Attempting to Remove a Mask He Believed It Was Wearing." I commend you, Hans. Hell of a performance, my friend. But it's time to lower the curtain. The game is up. You're a Poe. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel, which is DeadKennedyInSpace. If you want to support me further, consider donating on Patreon or purchasing some of my work through Amazon or Teespring. Thank you, and I'll see you over the curve, Space Cowboys.
Live there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam, in a vast cosmic arena.
Oh, I gotta say that worm hat is the most infuriating man I've ever listened to.
He's a piece of work, isn't he?
Absolutely. What a dope. He thinks everything is fake.
Well, either he thinks everything is fake or he wants people to believe he thinks everything is fake.
It's kind of hard to tell, isn't it?
He's really like, he's kind of the definition of Poe's Law, where just what he's doing is indistinguishable from satire of conspiracists.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, after I watched that video, I started playing around in Photoshop, and I think I found a way to make a Hans worm hat stamp. Click all over a picture and go, idiot, 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 idiot. I think that was
just a dunce cap.
Absolutely. So, Amy, do we have any interesting comments or questions from the chat on this one?
We do actually. We have one from Dorian who says he wants to know if Kevin could live his life in a sci-fi TV show, what would it be? And he said that his would be Red Dwarf.
Ooh, Firefly, because you can't take the sky from me.
Oh yeah.
There you go. That's an awesome one. And then we have there are thousands of penguins in the Falkland Islands, and they smell. They said that's what X-Penguin said. And then Slim Living Cyborg says if he put down the crack pipe, he might see reality, referring to Hans.
So I liked what Steve I said. One of the penguins at Edinburgh Zoo is a brigadier in the Norwegian army. That's true. I saw that on the news when that happened. They gave him a whole little ceremony and everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
That is.
What did you think of the video, Amy?
He did a good job covering everything that Hans was talking about, but oh my gosh, saying that penguins are fake because he's never seen one.
I know.
That's quite the ego. I haven't seen it, so it can't be real. You know, it's just you got to really think of a lot of yourself to be able to say that.
No kidding. What's your take on it, Boole?
I was laughing. This is the first time I've actually heard of the guy. So I mean, just the name Hans Wormhat.
Which some people have pointed out to me. There's a character who only exists in dreams called Hans Wormhat in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So that's
not even an original name.
Might be a Poe.
Yeah. Well, I say he's a Poe because how hard is it to go to find out what zoo near you has penguins? Like I've seen penguins in person on the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. So how I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't either, man. I just can't get my head around people like him. But yeah, I'd have to agree. He's a Poe. He's got to be a Poe. Nobody can be that friggin' stupid.
Well, I mean, we say that, but flat earthers do exist.
Well, yeah, true enough. Touche, touche, touche. Okay, so, well, that was the last video for the evening, but I do have just a couple of more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. First of all, if you had the power to utterly erase one channel from YouTube, what would it be?
Oh, Dubé. Has to be Dubé. I don't even know if he has, I don't know what channel he has anymore because his channels have been taken down repeatedly, but if I could remove him from the internet as a person, I'd be fine with that.
That's awesome. I'm sure a lot of us would agree with that.
My reasoning for that, just really quickly, the following is a quote from a rap song by Eric Dubé. The Earth's fucking flat, Holocaust denied, Hitler was cool and not a bad guy.
There you go.
That's why I'd like to take him down.
Yeah. I can certainly see your point there. Personally, I would take down Nathan Oakley.
Good choice. Very good choice.
Oh, that guy makes my skin crawl, just the sound of his voice. And let's see, I had another one here. Oh, yes. What does Kevin Kennedy like to do outside his life on YouTube?
Oh, boy. I'm a big video game nerd. I play a lot of video games. Elite Dangerous and Kerbal Space Program are probably two of my favorites right now. Aside from that, I like to write. I like to kind of be involved in the community as much as I can. Dick Dawson, you are correct. But aside from that, it's it's reading, it's writing, it's I would say I'd list some other things, but it's been hard to go outside this last year.
Yeah, true enough. True, I think we can all say that. And that leads me to something I'd like you to kind of just quickly speak on, and that's a bit of a crusade that you're on recently. That you have a pretty important message you want to get out there. So why don't you fill us in a little bit about what that's all about?
Absolutely. So a few days ago, through some other creators and some people on Twitter, it was discovered that there was an account with 2,500 followers that was sharing and distributing, possibly creating child pornography. And we mass reported it. We flagged the living hell out of it. Someone made a Google document listing all 2,500 followers so that we could get them as well. And we're slowly realizing that this is something people are getting away with on Twitter, and it's going almost completely unchecked, which is very disturbing. One of the accounts that first account retweeted was an account with 500,000 followers and had existed since February. It's gone now because we mass reported it, but it went for almost a year without anyone noticing it. So I made a video on the subject, and there's a group of us now kind of involved on constantly finding and mass reporting these accounts. We're working on getting some algorithms to do the work for us. There's a lot of people getting involved with it. And if you see anything like that on Twitter, bring it to everyone's attention. Stir up as big of a noise as you can, because at this point, Twitter needs to be held accountable for this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I completely agree. Something needs to be done. It's time to clean up the internet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The hashtag that's been going around is #NotOnMyTwitter.
There you go. And for those of you who are just learning about this, I highly recommend you head over to Kevin's channel, take a look at that video, and do your bit. Get involved. If we don't speak out, it won't go away. So
absolutely,
let's make that happen. So before we finish up, I'd just like to go through a short little list of some quick fires for you. Just give people a little bit of an insight into Dead Kennedy in space. And I think you'll notice a bit of a theme going on this one. So,
okay,
ready? Let's fire them off, shall we?
Sure.
Cool. All right, here we go. Number 1, Ultraman or Godzilla?
Godzilla. Ultraman's cool, but Godzilla, 100%.
Awesome. Anime or manga?
I'm more familiar with anime.
Okay. Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan?
Oh, that's a tough one. Bruce Lee, because he had some wonderful kind of motivational words that still exist today.
Awesome, awesome. Pizza or sushi?
Pizza, because I haven't found enough sushi that I enjoy.
Okay, fair enough. Beer or sake?
I've never had sake.
Really?
Never had it at all. No, that's it's like rice wine, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
I've never had it, but I'd be interested to try.
Cool. Cool. Rock, blues, or J-pop?
Ooh, rock. Definitely
Okay.
rock. I don't dislike blues. I don't love J-pop, but I wouldn't say I hate any of them.
Okay. Horror, sci-fi, or comedy?
Sci-fi, just because of the larger themes that it's able to have.
Awesome. Person you would most like to meet?
Ooh, living or dead?
Yes.
Sagan or Hawking would be. I'd love to meet either of those. If not, any astronaut who's been to space.
Awesome. Pretty much the same choices I would have. Person you would most avoid meeting?
Ooh, that's hard. See, because there's lots of flurfers I'd love to meet because I'd probably end up hitting them. But probably Nathan Thompson, because he just seems like just a scum person to be around in every sense.
Okay, that's fair enough. And the last one, the top 3 things on your bucket list.
Ooh, pass the Kármán line somehow, whether it's a commercial suborbital or orbital flight. I'd love to do that. Let's see. Photograph the ISS. I would love to do that myself at some point. I would love to be able to interview someone who's been to space.
Awesome. Those are really good choices, man. Really good choices. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Aimee, does anyone in the chat have a quick fire for Kevin or you yourself?
Sure. Jutmonk says, if Dead Kennedy in Space was going to sing to me, what would he sing?
It would have to be something about monkeys.
Yeah.
You know what, Jutmonk? Give me some time and I'll get back to you on that.
I'd sing The Witch Doctor. Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ding,
Oh, there we
dang.
go. That's perfect.
Any more, Aimee?
No, that was pretty much it.
Oh, great. Excellent. So, do you have any final questions, Aimee, that you would like to ask personally, or?
No, I'm all set. Thank you. But I just wanted to say I really enjoy your work, and I enjoy working with you too. We've had a lot of fun.
Well, thank you very much. I always love having you on as well. Boole, do you have anything you'd like to weigh in on before we finish up?
Not really. You covered a lot. I'm just thankful that I could produce the show, and I love doing these shows because you learn more about the creators that you love, and it gives you inspirations to do things on your own too. So
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, buddy. All right. Well, Kevin, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. It was really great having you here. And
Thanks very
hope
much for
we
having
can
me.
do it again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And for everyone in the chat, please remember, head on over to Kevin's channel if you haven't already. Hit that sub button. Make sure you click that bell to get all the notifications. So anytime he puts out some new content, you'll be informed. It's a great channel. And if you haven't been there yet, you will not regret it. It will be time well spent. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming out to the Mega Mirror. It's been fun having you all here, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks for the next Mega Mirror Live.